How you guys doing? It is day 6 of reading the whole Bible. We left off in Genesis with Abraham and Lot separate. That's in the chapter, sorry. We left off and Abraham and Sarah go into Egypt, and now this new one is chapter 13, Arab and Lot separate. So let's start reading, and yeah. We'll be reading chapter 13 all the way to chapter 15. Okay, here we go. Arab and Lot separate. 13. So Arab went up from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into Negeb. Now Arab was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold, and he sojourned on from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, the place where he had made an altar at the first. And there Arab called upon the name of the Lord. And Lot, who went with Arab, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together. For their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Arab's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At the time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Arab said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. It's not the whole land before you. Separate yourself from me. If you could take the left land, then I will go to the right. And if you could take the right, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Arab settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. The Lord said to Arab, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the beneath of the land, for I will give it to you." So Arab moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Chapter 14. Arab rescues Lot. 14. In the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tildal, king of Joim. These kings were made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shibnab, king of Admah, Shememer, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. And all this joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer. But in the 13th year they rebuilt. In the 14th year Chedorlaomer, and the king who were with him came and defeated the Raphaim in Eshtaroth Karnaim. the Zazim and Ham, the Emim and Shaveh, Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their hill country of Seir, and far as El Paran on the border of the wilderness. Then they turned back and came to Ed Mishpat, that is, Kadesh, and defeated all the countries of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who were dwelling in the Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar, went out, and they joined battles in the valley of Sidon with Shaldar Lamar, king of Elam, Tadal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Semam was full of bitumen pits, and the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled. Some fell into them, and the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their provisions, and went their ways. They also took Lot, the son of Arab's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Arab the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and of Aner. These were allies of Arab. When Arab heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men, born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided his forces against them by night, he and his servants, and defeated them, and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his kinsman Lot with his possession, and the woman and the people. Arab's blessed by Melchizedek. After his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king of valleys. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was prince of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, priest of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, blessed be Arab by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hands. And Arab gave him 1/10 of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Arab, give me the person, but take the goods for yourself. But Arab said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread of a sandal strap or anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Arab rich. I will take nothing but what the young men have eaten, and the chair of the men who went with me. Let Anar, Ashkel, and Mamre take their share. Sorry for the reading, my bad, but this is the last chapter. Chapter 15, God's covenant with Arab. 15. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Arab in a vision. Fear not, Arab. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Arab said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. And Arab said, behold, you have given me no offspring, and a member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. This man shall not be your heir. Your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, look towards heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteous. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldees to give you the land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, bring me a heifer, 3 years old, a female goat, 3 years old, and a ram, 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all this, cut them in half, and laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the bird in half. When birds of prey came down on the carcass, Arab drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Arab, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Arab, know for certain that your offspring will be a sojourner in a land that is not there, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nations that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your father in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation, for the iniquities of the Amorites are not yet complete. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Arab, saying, to your offspring I give the land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river of Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Raphaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. That was chapter 15. That was the last chapter. Very impactful. Little 3 chapters there. With Arab rescues Lot, rescues someone, even though with all the conflict, God's covenant with Arab, that was very big. A covenant that people don't talk about, but it's a very beautiful part. Even he said, this is probably one of the most beautiful verses, verse 5. And he brought him outside and said, look towards heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteous. Basically saying, you can count all the stars up in the sky, and that would be all your offsprings. And that's truly beautiful, honestly. Because Arab had no son, and he thought one of the people in his house will be his next heir. And God said, look at the stars. That will be the same amount as your offsprings. And yeah, that's truly beautiful. Next chapter will be chapter 16, Sarah and Hagar. And yeah, we'll talk about that more. And we'll be reading chapter 16, 17 till 18. Yep. Have a good day. God bless. Stay safe. Walk by faith, not by sight. And God bless. Amen.